Well, there's a new poll out that has a lot of people scratching their heads, particularly Republicans who thought that this was a winnable issue for them, the notion that Democrats want to pursue socialism, whatever you want to call it. It seems that 4 in 10 Americans polled by Gallup embrace some form of socialism. Many Republicans shouldn't then be laughing this off because it's a palpable and real issue. Republican strategist John Thomas, Democratic strategist Dave Burstein, and last but not least, Kat Tenth. So, Dave, to you first on this notion. When Americans were polled, even though a majority still are against it, it's only 51%, 43% don't have a problem with it. What did you make of that?
Well, look, I think people should be a little bit less alarmed than they might be by this, because I think what these things are really saying, and there have been a number of polls now that have shown this, is that Americans are frustrated with capitalism, that capitalism is not working. I think most people don't actually know what socialism is, so people aren't necessarily saying they want, Swedish-style socialism, as the president likes to say. But the reality is that people are frustrated, and capitalism does need improvements. And even Republicans have said this, too. And so people are looking around, they're looking at their pocketbooks, they're looking at interest rates, they're looking at their dwindling portfolios, and they're saying, can't we be doing better?
What's dwindling?
Well, if you are an average American, worker, your fortunes have not improved at the same rate that people's fortunes have improved if they're in the top 1%.
But they haven't invested as much money in the economy.
But an economy where you can only succeed if you put all your money in the stock market, most people can't afford to take that kind of risk.
You're trivializing it. I would say this, that the one thing that's very clear is when people are pulled the subject of help me pay for my college education or in my debt or health care for all, and all, those are appealing concepts that a lot of people would embrace. Now, when you get into the details how to pay for them, quite another thing. Right. But should Republicans be aware that in the middle of this booming economy, you do have people who are saying, no, this is other stuff that I want.
Right. Well, they absolutely should be aware. And the people who have said that they are sympathetic with socialism or with some form of socialism like AOC or like Bernie Sanders have done a good job of kind of branding it as, look at, we're going to give you these things. They don't mention that in order for the government to give anyone anything, they have to take from someone else. And it might be some of the people who support it that they would be taking from. So I think that Republicans need to do a better job of making that more clear, because you come off as being generous if you're a socialist. Really, in my opinion, though, there's nothing generous about wanting to spend someone else's money.
I'm wondering for Republicans, you think about it, because the economy, we can argue whether it's the president's doing or not. I mean, we certainly blame the president if it's a bad economy. Right. So accepting that as it is, and Pennsylvania unemployment at record lows, the Pennsylvania economy booming, and yet in the latest polls, the president is trailing Joe Biden by 11 points in 2 other industrial states that he won, Wisconsin and Michigan. A similar story, though not as big a gap. Something is not connecting then with voters.
Well, I don't think the president has really started the campaign trail. He's going to officially launch his campaign in a few weeks, and
Are you kidding? He talks about this stuff every minute.
He hasn't hit it in full mode, and the TV ads haven't started to roll, really making a case.
What could explain this dichotomy?
Well, look, I think there is a frustration, but what you see in that Gallup survey, which is more disturbing to me but also encouraging as just a Republican operative, is that 57% of those surveyed of Democrats support socialism. 57%. That's going to push whoever the Dem nominee is further to the left. And if this race in a general election comes up between socialism and economic freedom, my money's on economic freedom all day.
But if they have that high a percentage of Democrats and more than 43% of just general voters of that opinion and a higher percentage of independents of that opinion, you would have to be worried, right?
Not really, because Quinnipiac also put out a poll today that said 77% of Americans believe that the economy is either good or excellent. So what Trump has to figure out is, how does he take his ballot number and move it closer to people who are feeling better economically and take credit for that? That's his
There is that
challenge.
argument, too, that the economy is doing so well that people can entertain some of these socialism issues because they think we can afford it.
Well, I think that's true, but also, the question of how the economy is doing is different than how the stock market is doing. There are a lot of positive signs for growth.
I could leave the stock market out. I could look at 3.2% growth. I could look at record low unemployment. I could look.
But yet at the same time, there's that's not going to go on forever, and there's a lot of concerns about whether it's There's a lot of
We
concerns
live in
about
the world
trade
we live in,
policy.
and right now it's a strong
May
economy.
go to November.
It's a fact that
we
it's a strong
enter,
economy.
Morgan
That's not up
Stanley
for
just put
debate.
out a report this week that if we enter a full-blown trade war, which we're possibly on the path to doing, we'll go pretty quickly into a recession.
Well,
so,
woulda, shoulda, coulda. People have been bemoaning
but-
this for 14 months.
One
right?
thing we learned from 2016 is that the president has always had approval ratings that were underwater. He's never really been above 50, but voters can have a certain level of cognitive dissonance. We saw it in 2016. They can vote for somebody even if they're not in love with them if they think it benefits
Well,
them
it just
and
happened
their
in Australia.
pocketbook.
Right.
It just happened in Australia. All right.
Right.
We'll see. Maybe.
Democrats have done a good job of kind of focusing on the people who are struggling a little bit more, like student debt or people who have health care decisions, especially since Republicans did bungle health care so badly.
it's a big portion of the electorate.
All right. Good day, mates. See what I did there?
Nice. Full circle.
Yeah, well, I tried. All right, we have a lot more coming up, including that briefing.